Right, let's get some analysis. Political analyst Professor Dirk Kotzé joining us to expand on the conversation. A very good evening, Professor Kotzé. Thank you for your time. The ANC has admitted that its structures in KwaZulu-Natal are not strong enough to withstand the problems it faces. We know that KZN contributes highly to the national vote share. How significant is such an admission?
Well, it is very, very significant. As you indicated, KwaZulu-Natal and together with that, Gauteng are the core provinces when it comes just to the numbers in terms of the proportional representation system. And for the ANC at national level, as well as in the provinces, it's absolutely critically important that they turn around the trend. It's not a trend that started with this election, I must emphasize. In the case of KwaZulu-Natal, it started 5 years before this election in 2019, when the ANC already lost 10% of its total. So when one combines the two elections, they lost 47%, which is absolutely dramatic. And that is, I think, therefore very much justified that the ANC at the national level will have to intervene in a very dramatic way in this situation for it to be turned around.
As you mentioned, the elections, with the May elections, the ANC secured less than 17% of the vote in KZN, a decline attributed to several factors, including the growing influence of the Umkhonto West Sizwe party. As the party now looks to the various scenarios as it deliberates on the fate of KZN, the leadership structure there, what considerations does it need to take into account?
Yeah, I think this is the difficult question.
Yeah.
The ANC, it doesn't appear at this stage have identified or diagnosed what exactly is the reason, except that President Ramaphosa, former President Zuma, he is an absolutely dominant factor in this. And if we just look again at the results since 2004 and 2009, the ANC really started to grow when he was the ANC president. Before he was ANC president, the ANC did not have a majority in KwaZulu-Natal. They had 47% in 2004. To the next election, they increased with 16%. Thereafter, they increased another 1.5%. Then with the 2019 election, when President Ramaphosa became the ANC president, it declined with 10%. And now with to 17%. So the factor that really plays a dominant role in these trends is the presence of President Zuma as the dominant figure, first in the ANC and now in Umkhonto West Sizwe. So I guess for the ANC to devise a strategy, it will have to devise a strategy of how to counter President Zuma's influence in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah, because, I mean, just to, the ANC national spokesperson was asked whether the ANC was worried about some of the party members in KwaZulu-Natal working with the MK party. I mean, that in itself is one that, a concern that should be held in high account. But the ANC national spokesperson, Mahlengu Bengu Mutsiri, was saying that they don't find pleasure if those who don't want to be with the ANC basically are welcome to leave. How serious a threat is that? I mean, the idea that some may be looking to move to the MK party and working at the same time while they've got one foot in the ANC.
I think what makes it worse is the fact that with the last provincial elective conference in KwaZulu-Natal, when they elected the National Executive Committee, the Sigla Sigalala candidature or group that was more like pro-Ramaphosa lost all the positions. And what they call the Taliban group, that is more closer to President Zuma, and Zweli Mkhize and the former mayor of eThekwini, Zanele Gumede, they won all the positions. So it's already within the ANC's current leadership, there's this sort of preference or leaning towards the President Zuma's former supporters, or maybe still some supporters. So I think one can expect that if there's a move that's been made, for example, if the National Working Committee decides to disband the provincial executive, then some of those persons who have been negatively affected by it might move over to MK, especially before the the local government election in 2 years' time. It will be for them enough time in order to position themselves then in the MK party.
Yeah. With the NWC considering replacing the PECs of both Gauteng and KZN with task teams in an effort to now strengthen the ANC structures ahead of the 2026 local government elections, how viable a solution could that be, that move, as they look to find some solutions?
It's not always a very popular move because it means that it is an intervention from outside, from the national level into provincial matters. And provinces normally don't take it very easily and accept it as because it's seen as something of that they can't do the job themselves. There must be an external intervention, and it doesn't create confidence necessarily. So I think this is something which other parties have done. The EFF has done it and other parties, and it didn't produce good results. So it's only in the case of over a long period where President Ramaphosa had to get rid of the supporters of President Zuma in some other provinces, like especially the Northwest, for example, that it worked to some extent. But in generally speaking, it's not necessarily a good approach because it's seen as an external intervention, and that the local structures of the ANC, it's almost a motion of no confidence in them.
Yeah. Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in on the discussion. Of course, Professor Dirk Kotzé there, political analyst, giving us some sense of the scenarios and the considerations that need to take place as the fate now, disbandment may be on the cards for the ANC in Gauteng and KZN.